Hey, it's Zim, and should you play Loop Hero? Yes, you should. Just go ahead and go and buy it. You don't need to watch this video. Just go out and buy it, trust me. For $14.99 on Steam, it's worth it. Just go buy the game. If you can get it on sale, even better, but honestly, it's worth its price. Devolver Digital is the one who produced the game, and they are really good developers for indie games and these kind of smaller style games. They do some hilarious E3 presentations. Just go buy the game. Wait, you're still here? Alright, so you probably want to see some gameplay then, right? You've maybe seen it on Steam, and let's be honest, some of those pictures are great on determining what this game is actually about. Now, my personal opinion, this game's greatest strength is the exploration experience you have as you uncover more and more about this game. So I'm not going to go too deep into it because I don't want to rob you of that experience. But let's go ahead and start a new game, and we'll skip the tutorial as well. Show you a little bit, and it shouldn't ruin too much of your experience. We're going to skip through that as well, because that is something you can look at on your own time. But, as you can see, we're looking at a blank screen. Now, if you go through a tutorial, it's a little bit hand-holdy, but it really does do a great job of introducing all the core mechanics you're going to need, but not telling you what you can do that can make your game better or give you better things. But since we're here, we're going to build our campfire. Now, you'll notice there are tons of different buildings that we're going to be able to start building once we have resources to make our kind of home or the world that we're rebuilding better. It'll also give us some benefits throughout the game. Now, this is unlike some roguelikes, where if you die, you're not reset back to the beginning where maybe you've unlocked some things that you can carry over. What will happen is you'll lose resources, and the resources only matter for these buildings. So you're never really losing progress, which is good. It's part of this game's strength, which is that because it wants you to explore, it doesn't punish you for exploring. And that's something that I feel like some roguelikes get wrong, is that you'll get punished for trying to explore or experiment, and then suddenly you're set back to zero, and that can be very discouraging. This is like, oh, you lose some resources, but you're back here, and you haven't really lost anything. Now, the core of the game after this screen is actually going to be in expeditions. Obviously, we're playing the warrior right now. We don't have anything extra, and these are the cards available to us that we're going to find in our exploration. Now, right now, we don't have anything additional to add to it, but you will be able to get more later on. But we're going to jump right in. So as you see, we're on this loop. Character's going to give us a little bit of story here, and we'll skip through that as well. Now, there are two phases on this map. There's adventure, and there's what's called planning. You can pause the game at any time, which is called planning, which is going to allow you to interact with any of the cards, but your character is obviously not moving, and the day is not progressing. Now, there's a day progress, which is actually going to cause enemies to spawn every new day. And right now, since we only have slimes, that's not too big of a deal. But as we start to place things on our map, or our world that we're rebuilding and remembering, these enemies are going to get tougher, and they also level up throughout the day. Now, this phase here, and you can pause it just by like hovering over anything in your inventory or on the board, is an auto battler, essentially. You're not controlling anything. You're just going to watch them fight, and hopefully you won't die. Now, against slimes, you're pretty safe. And once you start getting more gear, you're going to be pretty safe. But these enemies get stronger, and as more stronger enemies come on the board other than slimes, there's definitely a sense of threat. Let's just go ahead and continue. I had paused the game, and so enemies can drop two types of things. We have gear, which we're going to equip because we have nothing right now. So this weapon is now going to give us 4 to 6 damage, and then they can also drop cards. These cards are allowing you to build the world. So in this case, it's a rock, and as you can see in the bottom right-hand corner, it kind of tells you what it does. A little bit of flavor text, and then obviously it gives me plus 2 HP and plus 2 more HP for every adjacent rock or mountain. So we can place that somewhere. Now, without spoiling anything too much, placements do matter. Obviously, we can see that rocks want to be adjacent to rocks or mountains, but if you do them in the correct formations, you can actually get bonuses, and that's something that the game never teaches you. It's something that you just kind of find out by placing. I will go ahead and continue here. But it's interesting because all different types of land masses are going to have different formations that you want to build around. Now, as you can see, we got a new Gladius. Fortunately, it's the exact same, so we're going to leave it here. And then we got 2 spider cocoons. Now, you'll notice that all it says is it spawns a spider. Why would I want to do that? Well, I'm going to put one over here. And one over here. Why not? These spiders might drop better cards, better gear, or resources that are very important for building my camp. So, while yes, I'm making my world harder, it's also going to allow me to level up, get better gear, and make my future runs, once I go back to camp and build more things, easier. We're going to go back to adventure and let these play out for a little bit. But this is the core of the game. There is a way to speed up as well. You'll probably want to start doing that once you get comfortable with the loop, when you start new expeditions, because it can be a little bit slow. Unfortunately, at 2 times speed, I do find that, like, if enemies are dropping cards, it's too fast to just leave up and not just... because you're going to want to pause so you can place these things, or leave it at 1 time so you can place these things. So it's a little bit weird. Road lanterns are going to help just... it's a positive board placement. This one just reduces monsters, and this one's going to give you essentially a bonus for movement speed and attack. Beacons are really good, but as you can see, it has a zone, and so it's only going to affect the squares in the blue. So fortunately, we'll put the beacon there, and we'll put the lantern here, seeing as that'll be very effective. We'll let it play out some more. I got some chess pieces. Perfect. But yeah, as you can see, your character walks pretty slowly, and right now there's just not much threat that you just don't really need it to be on ×1, especially once you're more familiar with the game. But at ×2, when you start getting like 3 cards from an enemy, it's like, all right, I'm gonna have to pause, and it's just... I wish there was a faster rate, but not as fast as what their ×2 speed is. But we're gonna put some mountains over here and some meadows. And as you can see, that's giving me resources. And we'll continue our loop. Alright. Now, Oblivion's a special card. This is going to be able to either destroy a building that's been placed, or it can kill any monsters on 1 single tile. So if we hover over there, I could kill the slime without fighting it. Now, you don't get any rewards for that. Keep that in mind. It's really good if you're, like, low on health and you're about to return to camp, and then there's, like, 5 monsters all in 1 square, and you know you're going to get wrecked by them. You can Oblivion to essentially save yourself. And let's see here. Cemetery is going to give us some resources as well, but it also will spawn skeletons. Get some meadows here. Also notice when you're placing a card, it does pause the world and the game, so you don't have to worry too much about that. But if you're going 2 times speed, like sometimes like you're going to encounter enemies right away, and then that's a shield. Perfect. It just becomes a little bit frustrating. And like I said, I think 2 times speed is a little bit too fast. I wish it was slightly slower, but still faster than ×1. We've hit a new day already, which is why these spiders had spawned, and we have more slimes. So every time we pass a day, more enemies will spawn. So, most likely, based on this timeline, by the time I reach a spider, another day will pass, so it could have 2 spiders there that I'll end up fighting. So that's something to keep in mind. And there's only 2 ways to leave an expedition. We'll pause at the camp. You do heal at your camp, a slight amount. I shouldn't say slight, it's actually a substantial amount. But it's not always full health. so just keep that in mind. So there are two ways to leave an expedition, and that is either by dying to an enemy, and what will happen is you'll lose a portion of your resources, and it's a fairly large portion, or you can retreat, which is returning to camp. Now, there is a loss system, meaning the further away you are from your camp, you will lose more resources. So right now I have 4 preserved stones and 3 rations. Sorry, preserved pebbles. Anyway, right now, if you're at camp, you can retreat with no cost. But let's say I'm halfway across the map and I'm low on health and I want to retreat, I would probably lose about 50% of my resources. Maybe not that extreme, maybe closer to 40%. But it is something to keep in mind as a push your luck element to this game, which is really cool, is how many loops do I want to do before I want to retreat and keep my resources safe. But we're going to go ahead and stay and start running some more. In the beginning, especially as you're getting used to the game, it's pretty easy to do 4 or 5 loops, but as the game progresses and these enemies get stronger, you're going to want to retreat because you want to start building up some of those things at camp, which will give you benefits in future expeditions. Like an early building you can get is the alchemy, which will give you potions, which is really cool. And having potions heal you, while it's not a large amount, may keep you alive to make it back to camp, so you can retreat, so that might allow you to do an extra loop or 2. Like I said, there's a ton of surprises in the game as well. Now, normally I might find that problematic, especially if a game's surprise can kill the player, which some of these surprises can. But because it's not resetting you to 0, it's just sending you back to camp, you never feel that the surprise has punished you, and so you don't feel cheated, which is a very important thing, to me at least, because I often feel like there are certain roguelikes that won't explain something to you on purpose to surprise you, and then it kills you, and you feel cheated. And this game never does that. And we'll continue our loop. And as you see, we went through the graveyard that we placed, and it actually gave us some resources. So that's just a good way of gaining more resources, is by placing some more of these tiles. So in this case, a battlefield will actually drop a treasure chest. We'll place it here, why not? The numbers are pretty simple for the gear, so it's pretty easy to do comparisons really quickly, so we'll keep going. And you'll notice that we have 12 gear slots. And as you progress more loops, those are going to fill up. Now, if you ever replace a weapon in your inventory, like we'll do now, it's gone. It doesn't go back to your inventory, it's destroyed. However, I can't get rid of these. They'll just go back to my inventory. An important thing to realize is because as this fills up, once it starts to overflow, what will happen is whichever square is here and then goes out will actually generate resources for you. So once again, more of that push your luck element. The more you're filling up your inventory and then getting it to scrap into parts, the more resources you're going to have to take home. But that takes a lot more time, especially with these lower level enemies. Versus when we get against stronger and higher level enemies, they're going to more likely drop more gear. So I love this game. It's a phenomenal game. It's a lot of fun to play. It's a game that's very easy to pick up and put down no matter how busy you are. Like, playing 30 minutes is a very effective use of time, just as much as playing a couple hours. I do feel like this game can wear on you, because you're just watching this character walk in loops, and so until you get to the higher difficulty loop stuff, you're going to be like, ugh, I'm a little bit bored, if you've been playing for a few hours. But I've also felt like if I take a break and come back to the game later on that day, or even the next day, I find that that kind of goes away, and I re-have that engagement and interest in watching these loops, even at the lower levels. Looks like none of these are good. I guess we'll place these meadows. We'll do some rocks. So I do have some problems. The animations this game are pretty basic, which is fine, but one of the things that drives me crazy is some of the combat sound effects. So like these spiders, for example, we're going to listen to, sounds like they're firing a laser gun at us, and I don't know why they went with that sound effect. But yeah, it drives me crazy. Go ahead and listen. Yeah, I don't know why they went with that sound effect. It sounds like they're shooting a laser gun at you. And it drives me crazy. I really don't like. I don't know if they what sound they were trying to go for that. But a lot of these combat sounds are not overly exciting, or in some of them kind of tedious, especially once we start getting to these larger battles, let's say. So I fought 3 spiders, but sometimes you can have 4 or 5 enemies against you. When that happens, it can just be a wall of noise coming at you of just different sound effects, especially if we get a multitude of different things like spiders and slimes and other enemies that we haven't encountered yet. So that can be frustrating. That's probably my biggest frustration with this game, honestly. And it's a very minor complaint, let's be honest. But as we place this mountain, a goblin camp spawned. So we are now learning that if we place things in the world, it may actually spawn other things that we did not intend to, which is really interesting. The battlefield has spawned us a chest. Now, battlefields will only spawn chests after you've completed a loop. So basically the loop that you get it and play it on, you're not going to get a chest from it, and then the loop following you will. Now, these chests can have really good items, sometimes not great items, and sometimes have surprises, so just keep that in mind. And we'll continue the loop. And you'll notice these slimes are actually hitting a lot harder. It's because we can scroll over. These enemies are now stronger. Skeletons also do some serious damage, though they have a very low spawn rate, so just keep that in mind as well. You probably don't want to stack up too many skeletons together. There's a rarity system based on color. Yellow is really good, blue is really good. Get to upgrade our weapon there, that'll be nice. It also tends to be that they have magical effects based on the color, what effects are they giving. So in this case, it's giving us a bonus to counter. This one's giving us vampirism and attack speed. Place down a grove. Got another spider cocoon. Perfect. We're still on ×2, but let's place another beacon. Now, this great use of Oblivion is maybe I don't want these goblins. Maybe goblins are a very big threat to me based on my current build, or, whatever. Maybe it was poorly placed. Oblivion can remove that. Now, it's a tile I didn't place, but it's still a tile on the board. However, the goblin that spawned will still hang out until you've killed it. Placing some stuff and put a grove there. Why not? This is a little bit of story, but we'll just skip past it. And you'll fight these goblins. And as you can see, they're pretty damaging, and they have a very high evade rate, so it can be tough to kill those. And we'll continue on our way. And slime's doing fine. Now you'll notice up here, and this is something that I didn't really explain to you if you go through the tutorial, is you have a map completion bar. When it's filled, a boss will spawn. It's pretty easy to not realize how fast that can fill, and then suddenly be like, oh wait, bosses here, and I don't know if I'm ready for this. Or I've taken too much damage, and there's no way I can fight them. So it's just something to always be aware of as you're playing and progressing through each loop, how fast your bar is filling. You'll also notice in the upper right-hand corner here, the enemy level. Enemy level is going to determine how much harder they're hitting. Like I said, we've noticed the slimes are now actually doing a decent amount of damage when they hit. Now, it's partly because some of my gear is still low level, but it's also because they're getting stronger, and we're about to fight 3 spiders and a rat wolf, so it is something to be concerned about. And I think I'll leave the ring as it is. Oh, the rat wolf moved it off, so just spiders. Alright. Place a vampire mansion. And cemetery, why not? We'll probably just retreat after this, just to show you what that's like. Alright, and we'll retreat. Since we're back at camp, we're not going to lose any of our resources. And yeah, let's retreat. So as we get back, we get to progress the story. Suddenly there's more camps because more people are drawn to the world that we are rebuilding. Something special about us, but that's something you'll discover as you go through the story. And they'll give us some resources here. And then we can start building. A field kitchen is pretty easy to get started, and obviously we build adjacent. We'll just skip through that as well. And that's going to give us some kind of just bonuses. So this is giving us a 10% to campfire healing power, so when we complete our loop essentially, and unlocks the Blood Grove card. So if we were to go into an expedition, we now have the Blood Grove available to us. Just another card. Now, starting out, you can only have a maximum of 12 cards, so as you unlock more, you're going to have to choose which ones you want available to you. So maybe you don't want spider cocoons anymore, and you'll have something else available to you instead. So pretty cool idea of being able to customize the world that you're fighting in, and being able to also choose the resources that you need access to. Like Meadow and Rock, super important right now, but we might want something later, where Meadow and Rock might be less good for us. Anyways, that's all I want to delve into for Loop Hero, because, like I said, exploration in this game is so big. It's so enjoyable. It's what makes me love this game. I mean, honestly, it's a very solid game. It's a ton of fun. It's a game that's easy to pick up and put down throughout your day or throughout the week. I think you should definitely pick it up. Like I said, it's $14.99 on Steam. That's an amazing price. I think I've seen a lot more indie games and games on early access tend to go to like 20 to 25 these days, and this game is fully complete. It's not an early access. It's by Devolver Digital, who has a very good track record of amazing games. They do a great job just overall. Just pick it up. Anyways, guys, thanks for watching, and I'll see you later.